Hello, my name is Shane Young with Bold Zebras, those guys. And today we're going to talk about upgrading a SharePoint 2013 content database to SharePoint 2016. How much fun could that be, right? The good news is that this is very similar to doing it from 2010 to 2013. So if you're familiar with that process, this should look about 99.999% identical. So that's also good. And this is just going to be a quick video that's going to go over kind of how to do the content databases. Instead of doing, talking about all the requirements and all the pieces and intricacies of it, this is really just focused on going from content database in 2013 to 2016. And the reason for that is this is actually going to be a complement to the session that Todd, Klindt, and Jason Himmelstein, fellow SharePoint MVPs, are delivering at Ignite. They talk too much, so they're not going to be able to demo in the session, so I'm really just doing the demo that they're going to point you guys to watch later. Down the road somewhere, I will do a longer session that kind of covers all the pieces of it. But for today, let's just talk about upgrading a content database. Cool? Let's get started. All right, let's zoom out to my desktop here. And so you can see that I've got my little handy dandy timer going. So we're actually going to start this guy. And so the idea of that is it's going to kind of give us an idea of real time how long all this takes, because I'm pretty good about editing out all of the fun things that you don't want to wait and see. So just gives you a running total here. So let's start over with my SharePoint 2013 VM. So on this VM, I've actually built this environment out. And so there is a link right over here to the recording of how I've built out this farm, but I went through all the proper steps. It's a good running farm. It's got a separate domain controller, SQL Server, SharePoint Server, and it's a happy farm. If we go to Manage Web Applications, we'll see I've got 3, and so obviously portal.contoso.com was my main one, so we're going to look at that one. So then Application Management and View All Site Collections. And so here you can see I've just got some various site collections. I just kind of made a bunch of fake content to kind of give us some substance to upgrade. Right, if we look at the home page of that environment, you can see I've added some colors, a logo, some really important documents down here, key things for you. Also out here, I've got a site collection, which is, it was a 2010 site collection. It's been upgraded to 2013 UI. Remember, that's important because if it was still in the 2010 site collection, it would not allow us to upgrade it to 2016, so we get errors down the road. So make sure that if you have any 2010 site collections in your 2013 farm, that you get those upgraded. Also back over here in Central Admin, under Application Management, Manage Web Applications, if you click on Portal here, and then if you click on Manage Paths, you'll see that I do have another wildcard path called Projects. And this is important because if you have that in your environment, then you need to pre-create this. So we'll make sure we pre-create this in the 2016 farm before we do the upgrade. So one of those little gotchas to watch out for. Okay, so this content's all good and ready. So let's minimize this, and we'll switch over to my SQL 2013 VM. And so there's my content database, WSS_content_portal. So we're going to right click on that database, and we're going to say task, and then we're going to back it up. And so when you back it up, you need to choose a name. So it looks like I might have used that one before. So we'll remove, and we'll do add again. We'll hit the ellipses. And so then I just created a folder called backups. So there we go. So backups, and then for file name, we'll use 2013. It worked last time. So we'll say 2013 and OK. Oh, and actually we want to make that a 2013.bak. You don't have to. It worked the same either way. I just, consistency. So click OK. So that'll get everything backed up. We'll say OK, and it'll execute here. Boom, backed up successfully. We'll click OK. And now if we jump over to my folder structure, see backups. So there's my backup file. You got to get that now to the 2016 SQL Server, right? So I'm going to right click and do a copy, and I'm just going to use the clipboard to move it from one end to the other. Depending on how big yours was, right, you're going to have to figure out how to solve that problem for you, whether it's a local file copy or if it's a FTPing out to the cloud, whatever it might be. So, all right, so let's minimize that. And so now I need to switch over to the SQL 2016 server. This guy right here. I know, very exciting stuff. I'm going to open up the folder over here. So C, and there should be a restore folder. And so we're going to right click and do a paste. And just in case you're wondering, one of these farms is actually a Hyper-V local farm, and one of these is in Azure. And also, one of these farms is using the Contoso domain, and the other one is using a Shane's Cows domain. And the only reason I point this out is when you do upgrades and things like this, we really encourage you to test. And it's important to know that you can test from your production domain, right? You can go get your production backup from last night and then go and restore that to a new VM that you built out in Azure today and test it, no problem, right? There's not any inconsistencies there. And so there's really just no reason not to go through this process a whole bunch before you ever have to do it in production. Ideally, you'd have it all documented. You'd say, okay, so Friday at 5, we're going to put the farm in read only, from 5 until 5:47, the backup's going to run, etc., etc., because you can test the entire process without affecting production and have it all ready to go. Okay, but I'm rambling, so we will continue. All right, so there's my file. It's been restored. So then now on my SQL server here, right, this is the SQL for 2016. We're going to go to databases. We're going to right click, and we're going to say restore database. And so then now we want to click devices, and then click the little ellipses, file and add, and just laugh at the SQL folks. I don't know why they use this, Windows 3.1 looking interface for choosing folders, but they do. Either way, there's my restore folder, and there's that 2013 backup file that we did. Okay, so it looks good. Now you can see that it automatically pulled the database name and such from the backup file. I don't want to use that database name because I've used it before. It causes, collisions with some of the old stuff I've done. So you can name it whatever you want. So we're going to call this WSS_content 2013 video. Yay! Boom. Now, if you are trying to avoid conflicts, though, then you also want to go over here to Files, because it's going to use those set file names by default. And so if you have a database with those same file names, you'll have conflicts as well. So I'm going to click the ellipses, and I'm going to stay right here in this same folder, but now I'm just going to give it the name to match the file name to match the name I just gave. It's 2013 video.mdf for the data file. Click OK. And then click on these ellipses. And so then here we're going to do 2013 _ log LDF. And so then that way the MDF and LDFs, they're the way they're expected to be, and we're not having any of this inconsistency where the database is named one thing and the files is named another. Okay, so now let's click OK. And so that's going to run the restore process. Thankfully, we're using small databases. Hopefully your environment goes just as fast, but you're probably going gigs or terabytes, and I'm just doing 50 megs, so be jealous. All right, click OK. So now the database is restored. All right, we'll see WSS_content 2013 video. And now before we leave the SQL Server, though, we also need to give permissions to this database to the account we're running SharePoint, more specifically the account that we're running the SharePoint PowerShell for. Right? And especially in my scenario where I'm jumping domains, so none of the permissions that came with the database are going to travel. So what I'm going to do over here is go to security and then logins. And so we're going to go log into the SharePoint 2016 server as sp_install. So I need to give that account access. So to do that, I'm going to double click on it. And then we're going to go to user mappings. And then we're going to scroll down here and we're going to go to WSS content 2013 video, right? We can expand out and see that's my name. Boom. And then you need to give DB owner access to that database. Unfortunately, it can't do it with lesser permissions. A lot of times in SharePoint, SP data access works, so you don't have to give DBO. But for this particular command, it will not. So you need to be database owner. All right. So we'll say OK. And so that'll update the database. Okay, so SQL Server is happy. Yay, SQL Server. So we're going to minimize that. And now we're going to jump over to our SharePoint 2016 farm. So before we start doing the upgrade, let's take an inventory of what we've got. So all the everything's been provisioned. So there is a video right here that shows you everything I did to build out this farm. This farm was built proper way with no weird database names, no GUIDs in my database, or that. All the service applications are up and running, and it's even patched to the September 2016 CU because that's the latest patch. Not that I recommend it, right? Go see my CU videos for that guidance. All right. So I created a portal web application. So one of the things we know we need to do is we need to go over here to manage paths. Remember earlier I said note the one we did on the 2013 farm. So since we noted it, right, you wrote it down on your little piece of paper over here. Probably not. We're going to type in projects. and then add path. So if you don't do this step, what will happen is for every managed path that you were using in the 2013 database, they will be created as explicit inclusions in the 2016 farm. And you just don't want to have that, right? You shouldn't have more than 1 or 2, 3 or 4, managed paths. I think Microsoft recommends up to 20. I think that's even too many. And if all of a sudden you had 100 databases, 100 site collections that were all in the project's wildcard, and you upgrade them in 2016, you would then have 100 items listed here. And it's going to cause you farm performance issues. So just be smart about that. All right. The other news is you can go back and fix this after the fact, but then it's like, when do I stop this one and add this one? It becomes a real complicated mess. So do it early and often, like voting. Click OK. All right, so there's that. And then if we go to Application Management and view all site collections, here you'll see that there's already a bunch of site collections created. And so these would actually conflict with the site collections for my 2013 farm. And so what I did was when I created the 2016 web application, I went ahead and set up DNS, the accounts. I created some content to make sure that that web application worked. And so that was kind of my testing there. So it did work, yay. So what I'm going to do though is, because I don't want the conflicts, the easiest way to get rid of all that is go to Application Management and then Manage Content Databases. And so then there's WSS Content Portal with the 5 site collections. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to scroll down here and say Remove Content Database. Oh, you sure you really want to do that? I do. I'll click OK. And then I know my face is covering up, but I'm going to click OK over here as well. And so then now there's no content databases associated with my web application. And then Application Management, view all site collections. There's no site collections. The reason that I did all of that is what I found is it's real easy to create a web app and then just start adding databases to upgrade, and then be like, oh, nothing's working. What's wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I break with the upgrade? Why doesn't my content work? And in reality, it is your web application just didn't work, right? You didn't set up DNS correctly or something of that nature, and it just causes a bunch of unneeded headaches. So take the extra 15 minutes to create content in your new web app, make sure it all works, and then you can go and delete it and then upgrade to a blank web app. Okay, so now that we have the blank web app, and we should be ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the management shell. So we're going to say Start. We're going to start typing in Power. And then we're going to right click on the SharePoint 2016 management shell. Right, very important. People skip this all the time. You've got to run it as administrator. Click Yes. Right, we're logged in as SP install, and that's the account we gave access to the database. That was important earlier also. And so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to do a test-spcontentdatabase -name WSS_content_2013 video -web application, and then we're going to attach it to portal.shanescows. Oh, I almost made that mistake again. It's one of those problems, right? The other environment is Contoso. The 2013 environment was Contoso. My 2016 environment is Shane's Cows, which is a good demonstration for you guys, but it causes me some confusion. Okay, so test-spcontentdatabase, if you're not familiar with the command, essentially what it did was it asked that database, what are all the pieces of content that you need to render? So what features and solutions and templates and things like that? And then it went and asked that web application, portal.shanescows.com, do you have all those things? Fortunately, the answer was yes. So that means everything is happy. I will be honest with you though, even if it comes back with a whole bunch of errors, I still try and always just power through it. I'll go look at the errors after the fact, but in reality, one of the tricks to testing upgrades is to just power through and test it, see what happens before you get too hung up on all the issues and such. So I'm going to hit up, and I'm going to hit home. I'm going to change the word test to the word mount, just like that. So same exact command, just one extra character, and hit enter. And so then now it's going to start a upgrade process here. The great news about that is you can track it down to the 100th%, so 0.08% right now done. But it gives you a kind of running total of what's going on. So actually we're just going to pause the video while this runs. The timer's down there, so we'll see how long it took, but I'll see you in a second. Okay, so a little more than 3 minutes and it's finished up here. You can see that it got 7 site collections in the process. So if we switch over to Central Admin and we do a refresh on the site collection list. Yay! So you can see that all the different site collections have shown up. And so then if we go over here and create a new tab, and we go to http portal.shanescows. I can't even spell my own cows. Cows.com. Oh, now we get a login prompt. So Shane's cows and sp install and my super secret password. I will point out I think it took almost as long for the web application to cache as it did the database to upgrade in its entirety, but we won't make fun of SharePoint for that today. And if you're thinking about database upgrade times and things like that, just remember mine only took 3 minutes because it was 50 megs, right? If yours is 50 gigs, it's going to be a different story. The good news though is the upgrade times are pretty consistent. So if in your testing it takes 4 hours to upgrade, it should take 4 hours to upgrade every time. In the old days we used to have it would take 4 hours on Tuesdays and 5 hours on Wednesdays. That's not a problem anymore. So it'll help you back when you get back to that idea of creating a script of how long your upgrade is going to take. Okay, so you see I got an error. Sorry, this site hasn't been shared with you. And that goes back to this whole idea that I went from the Contoso domain to the Shane's Cows domain. So one of two ways to fix it is either you could go in here to application management and then change site collection administrators and make your account one of those again, right? Because to deal with it. But in reality, I got 7 site collections. I'm just here testing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to manage web applications, go to portal, click on user policy, add a user, and say next. And so I'm going to do my good friend sp install. It's the account we're logged in as, doing all my work as. We're just going to give him full control here. So say finish. Boom. He now has full control. Now don't go over here and hit refresh on this page because you'll be refreshing the error denied or access denied page, and that'll be really frustrating. Instead, type in the URL again. All right, and wonder why I got my error message. Let's close this and open it again. Portal.shanescows. There you go. Just one of those cases where the error message was cached, or the SharePoint was cached, so I didn't have access. Very rude. But now we get the handy dandy little message that we are working on it. All right, well, saying as Elves finished working on this one, let's go over here and look at a couple other things I want to show you. Hopefully that'll finish working on it before we get done. If we go over to Upgrade Migration, you can go here to check upgrade status. And so here you'll see all the upgrade logs that have ever happened. And so in this environment, it looks like, I've done 3 today, so you can tell I did a couple trial runs before we did this. But then this will tell you, so it took 3 minutes and 55 seconds. If we move the timer over a little bit for a second, it'll also give you the location directly to the log file. So if you go over here to the log files, so C, and then program files, common files, Microsoft shared, web server extensions, 16, oh, I've been saying that for so long, and logs. And right here you'll see that we get 2 upgrade files. So this is the everything that happened during the upgrade. It's very verbose, very verbose. Usually don't like to read that one. But if you go to the second one here, the dash errors, and double click on it, it is just the errors that happened in the warnings. So if we scroll over, we'll see that I had a warning around attempted to set the schema version of 4432 1000, which was 1003, which was later. So it's like, hey, everything's great. So it was kind of like a fake warning, if you will. But if you had actual error messages, they would all just be in this file in a nice, neat order for you to read through. So anytime I'm trying to troubleshoot upgrading, this is where I go. Very rare do I go and open the really long file. It's just too much to read. All right, so we'll close that. We'll wonder why our timer disappeared. Let's minimize again. There's our timer. All right, now he's there. And so then also you can see that Santa's Elves finished. The intranet is here. Everything's good. Yay! Looks like Todd still smells funny. And then if you go to /projects, and then was 2010. So this was my site collection that was originally 2010, got upgraded to 2013 over on the 2013 farm. It's very important. And then it was in the database, so when we attached it in the 2016 farm, it went from 2013 to 2016. Nonetheless, these crazy people are back. I'm pretty tired of them. They've been around for 6 or 7 years now. But everything worked. So there you go. There's an overview of how to upgrade a content database. You can see, took about 20 minutes of real time because I had a tiny database. But it's great for you guys to practice first with the tiny databases, and then just grab your backups from production and throw them on a test farm out in Azure, on a VM on your machine, wherever you want, because you just have to meet all the requirements. You can reset all the permissions as we just showed you along the way so that you can actually access it and just confirm that things work and you kind of have a feel for how the process goes, right? No reason not to taste. No reason not to taste or test, apparently. Maybe taste test. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's our cue that we are done here. So, hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit like or hit subscribe. I'm a big fan of subscribers. If you want to see something different, you have questions, leave me comments. I'm always a fan of answering comments. You'll see every comment I've ever gotten, I respond to. So send me a note. Or if you're on Twitter, @Shane'sCows. And finally, if you need any help with your upgrade process, hit me up through Bold Zebras and I can come and do your upgrade with you, right? I promise not to do any tasting of your environment. We'll only do testing though. All right? Thanks, guys. Have a great day.